Hi folks, yes, you've got my bank to rights. All the Porky face here has indeed been telling you porkies. This review of Rangers season 2022-2023 is going to take 3 videos to cover rather than the 2 I had previously intimated. Let's be honest, I could probably get an entire Netflix series out of this. A few seasons on Netflix it would take to cover this one season in Rangers history. Such were the setbacks our heroes faced, the labyrinthine plots, the convoluted story arcs that ended up with us having no trophies in the bag and a bit of European humiliation thrown in to boot. And I was also making out that this kind of 4-0 win over St Mirren at Ibrox and the 4-1 win over Aberdeen at home, that 4-0 at Tynecastle, was all part of Gio's solid, good start to his domestic campaign, when, of course, you've probably already worked out those results came in October, and Gio's real problems started at the very start of the previous month. Our first 2 matches in September now. There have been better additions of Ajax and Celtic than the current crop at each club, but these are European Cup winning clubs. Respect where it's due. It's not necessarily a humiliation to lose by 4 clear goals at Parkhead or by 4 clear goals at the Johan Cruyff Arena, but for Rangers to do it in consecutive matches, to lose 2 straight games by 4-0 is pretty much unacceptable. The writing wasn't on the wall for Gio at that point, but we were kind of down at the paint shop getting the spray cans in and kind of picking out earmarking the area on the gable end that we're going to start spraying his resignation letter. The way we lost at Parkhead as well, the fact it was compounded by the fact we'd lost 3-0 there in February within a calendar year. We'd been twice 3-0 down at Parkhead at half time. This time we went and added a wee kind of not so much a coup de grace as a punchline when John McLaughlin kicked the ball straight to David Turnbull, a guy who can't even get a game for Celtic these days, and he gets to walk in a winner and a 4-0 Old Firm victory. This was a big problem. McLaughlin also started in Amsterdam. We did not sort out the goalkeeping problem this season. Alan McGregor had played a season too long the previous season as it was. To have him as backup this season wasn't really a bad idea until John McLaughlin could not rise to the challenge of being Rangers number 1. Robbie McCrory was injured and too inexperienced. We never really came to grips with the goalkeeping problem, which ended up costing us a lot of points. We should have got a more experienced keeper in January at least. That didn't happen, and it definitely cost us, particularly in this phase of the season. Look, the Celtic fans are waving scarves and all that. You never walk alone. And on those scarves it says "We never stop." You don't actually have to go very far to find out how Celtic play, how Postecoglou's Celtic are going to come at us, and yet we have our players, when we commit a foul, turning and moaning at the referee, walking away from the ball, which Celtic players are just taking free kicks as quickly as possible, getting the ball into our box. It was comic cut stuff, and for Gio to have done this twice in the space of a calendar year. We'd gone to Parkhead in between times, and a third league trip to Celtic towards the end of the previous season in May 2022 and got a 1-1 draw. Actually kind of dominated that game. Fashion Sakala scored, didn't dominate, but we deserved to win it, that game anyway. But this is a pivotal moment. I don't know about you, it's not a part of the history books I really like to delve into too deeply. I think we'd lost 2 games consecutively in 1979-80 season, in which we conceded 4 in each game, and we lost 4-1 and 4-3. And that was at the fag end of a season that was a league season that was already long dead. But for us to lose by 4 clear goals in 2 consecutive games, I don't know if anyone's ever done that before, and to do it at such a tone-setting moment of the season, kind of unacceptable, as I say. You're looking for Gio to come back from that. What can he do? Well, things went from bad to worse, really. In the Champions League group stages, we lost 3-0 at home to Napoli. James Sands gets himself sent off because he shouldn't even be playing at centre half. He's a kind of mediocre midfielder as it was. Never mind how he's going to get on in his secondary position of centre half, and how he's going to get on against a team who ended up winning maybe Serie A, one of the best leagues in the world. But we didn't want to give him too hard a time. It was a necessary tackle that he made. Off he goes. We'd held out quite well, but he gets a red card. We're down to 10 men, and eventually, despite Alan McGregor having a kind of last hurrah by saving the same penalty from the same player twice, it was just delaying the inevitable. Napoli get a third penalty award, and they put it away. They beat us 3-0, and the most humiliating moment for me personally in that Champions League campaign was the night I nearly cried on the Jersnet preview pod. No, not crying with fear or crying with shame later on, but crying with pride at the prospect of Rangers going to Anfield. In the middle 2 fixtures where we're playing Liverpool, we're going down to Anfield. Somebody of my age, the first European final I remember was 1977, Liverpool's first European Cup. Even if you have no particular love or hate for Liverpool, but they're just iconic for guys of my age. They dominated English football when I was a kid. They dominated Europe as well. And, for everybody, you've watched more goals going into the Kop end probably than any other end in European football. When I was a young man, I went down to Liverpool to go and stand on the Kop just before it was converted from terracing into seating in light of the Taylor report, such as the kind of iconic status of this terrace and the goal that it hangs over. And the prospect of Rangers going down there. My club is finally going to Anfield on European business, a properly competitive match. It was too much for me. I was so excited. We get 0 shots in on the Kop. The first half, we were shooting towards the Kop end at Anfield. No Rangers player had the ball at his feet in the 18-yard box at the Kop end. I think we had a couple of half-hearted efforts from outside the box that probably went out for shies or so pathetic. We only lost the game 2-0, which turns out it was a major result in light of how that group stage actually went. Leon King had to get brought in. He got deep-ended. This is, again, the injury problems. The Champions League group stage this season was compressed because the World Cup was getting played in December. A World Cup getting played mid-season. The Champions League is a vicious tournament. It's absolutely merciless. And for us not to have been in it for over a decade, for us to have been at the bottom tier of our domestic situation, the bottom tier of Scottish football, between the two times that we've most recently been in the Champions League, that was obviously going to have a negative effect on us. We weren't hoping to get out the group stage. We certainly weren't hoping to qualify for the next stage of the Champions League. We weren't even hoping really that badly that we were going to get in third place and go on in the Europa League. We just didn't want to make a fool of ourselves. And that's kind of what we ended up doing when Liverpool come back to Ibrox. Scott Arfield scores our first goal of the entire group stage in our fourth game of the group stage. 17 minutes. It's 1-7. That tells you what was going to happen. It was 7 minutes later that Bobby Firmino equalised. The writing was on the wall. It was too much for us. We're playing, I think it was put into 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks that all the games were played in the Champions League this season, whereas normally they're spread across like 3 months, the group stage matches. We would have needed that kind of space between matches to recover from the high intensity of these games. Connor Golson goes off with an injury. A lot of Rangers fans don't really rate Connor Golson as highly as I do. This isn't, this is a bit of a lies and statistics, but he went off the park and it was 1 each, Liverpool at Ibrox, and we ended up losing 7-1 with 6 consecutive goals conceded. And once Connor Golson went off the park, and that summed up how even somebody like Connor Golson, an ever-present, a guy who never gets injured, the intensity of this compressed Champions League was too much for Rangers in our current situation. And we got an absolute doing. It was pretty much, we lost 6-0 to Real Madrid in the Bernabeu, the Real Madrid of Puskas and Hento and Di Stefano back in the mid-1960s in the European Cup, and that wasn't too much of a humiliation. That was kind of the thing that was happening to a lot of decent teams at that time. But Rangers losing 7 goals to anybody at Ibrox, I don't think it's ever happened before. I've certainly never seen it. 5 was the worst I'd ever seen. I've only seen us losing 4 goals at Ibrox 3 or 4 times before that. This was just the worst on-field night ever. I was saying in my previous video how the night we get put out by Progress Niederkorn was the biggest humiliation in terms of results in my life watching Rangers. Well, this was the other one. It's kind of bookending to the magical European runs, the group nights under Steven Gerrard, and then Gio and getting us to a European final. This was a kind of bookend. It was all over. The European adventure was basically finished in horrific style by Liverpool that night. Mo Salah scoring a hat-trick in record quick Champions League time, and that was not the last record that we'd be on the wrong end of. There have been more teams have conceded more goals than we conceded in this group stage. There's teams that finished with a worse goal difference than we finished in this group stage, but they've all managed to maybe get a point on board, or we ended up with the worst combination of negative statistics in a Champions League group stage that probably made it the worst Champions League group stage ever, and from a club like ourselves who'd been at the start, played the first night of the Champions League proper, the group stages back in 1992-93, who had helped invent the Champions League in the first place. It was absolutely awful. Even to rub our noses in it, Ajax came to Ibrox. We pulled a goal back in the 87th minute, a penalty from Tabor, thinking, can we get a point out of this? Can we actually get something on the board? Ajax goes straight up the park, and they make it 3-1, just as Victoria Pilsen are going 4-2 down to Barcelona. If they conceded one more goal, Barcelona were winning 4-2 for 15 minutes in that game. Never scored another one. The one goal that would have made Victoria Pilsen's goal difference as bad as ours. It was awful. How is Gio going to respond? Find out in part 3.